I was wondering, we talk about a lot of things, but, one of the things that I don't really talk about, what I think a lot about, is entrepreneurship. And I questioned myself and have before, and I thought, what is it that makes an entrepreneur? Are we born entrepreneurs, or are we bred entrepreneurs? Because it's probably one of the most interesting things looking back on my career in particular, or my life, is I wondered how I got here. Do we wonder sometimes how we got here? I wonder how I got here. And so then I started thinking, well, okay, so when I was living here in Washington, D.C., which is my home, in Tacoma Park, Maryland, I decided that at 17 that I was going to have a dancing school. At 17. Who was going to bite that off at 17? Okay, so I took pictures from a photographer. I put them in my father's watch shop window, and I advertised. And the next thing I know, I got somebody to donate a room, and I had children to come and take dance lessons. And I thought, well, gee, that was pretty interesting, looking at character, right? And then I went to Hollywood, and then all that happened, and I danced, and I did that. And then suddenly I became something, as life would have it. I got on Laugh-In, and then I went off to do a movie, and I won an Academy Award, and life just sort of went like that. And then the next thing I knew was I said, well, gee, why don't I just produce movies? I mean, let's produce movies that matter. I don't just want to make movies just to make a movie, but now I get to have a voice and make a movie about women or women's issues or areas in which are socially conscious. And even though I made people laugh and all that, I realized that I was too excited about the possibility of sharing perspective or shining a light on something that we don't talk about. And this is what I realized, even though it wasn't me trying to be an entrepreneur. The fact is I only produced because I realized it was a way to get messaging out. And I did produce for many years. And then came time for me to reach, I guess it was a time of a certain time in our lives. I'd made a lot of movies. I had reached a certain age in life. And I asked myself a big question. What now? What am I going to do now with my life? Am I going to spend it in a makeup chair? Am I going to spend it making more movies? Well, actually, as you get to be a certain age in Hollywood, you don't make as many movies. And I thought, but I'm not done yet. And now as I go, and we went up to Vancouver, I went there for my son because he was a hockey player, and Kurt too, and we made a house and a home for him because he wanted to reach his dream to be a professional hockey player. So there we were, and there I was, and I left Hollywood behind, and I moved up to a beautiful God's country up there. And I remember sitting in my meditation room, looking up at the rain falling on my glassed roof and my glass ceiling, and I started to dream because we had just experienced 9/11. And I thought, well, I've adopted children all over the world. I still have. I still talk to them. One's 23 years old now, still calls me mom. It was the most wonderful thing. But I thought, now that the children are really showing signs of distress, and children today are opening up fire in classrooms, bullying is gone completely crazy, and cyberbullying is not helping at all. It's because technology is taking a lot of things away from our children. Intimacy, empathy, things that help us and keep us moving. Empathy in this room is palpable because you people, you wonderful people who are entrepreneurs who want to change the world, have empathy. And we need to build more of that in this world. And I felt that there was a self-centeredness going on. There was depression, a rise in depression. There was psychotropics being given to children when they weren't even being diagnosed appropriately. And I saw a world in our future that needed attention. And I was afraid for our children. And I sat there and I thought, if I could do something, one thing, what would it be now at this time in my life? Little did I know that when my dream, which was to help children become more emotionally stable, to give them tools to be able to recognize how to do this, to be able to put it in the classrooms, to put together some of these things that I had studied and researched and learned and knew that they worked, but didn't have research yet. Wasn't that like the biggest dream of all? Because for me, it was about how are we going to change the direction of the world? How are we going to take our children and give them something that would give them the tools, the passion, the goodness to turn this world into a better place? How were we going to build better leaders that weren't taking us into other countries, that were basically building new petri dishes of terrorism? How is it that we were going to create great thinkers, great problem solvers, critical thinkers, kinder people, good listeners, ones that had perspective? That's a big order. But all the things that I had learned over the studies of my years from 1972, whether it was psychology, human behavior, neurobiology, meditation, practitioners, and positive psychology, these are things that were a big part of my learning curve for a very long time. And as I watched the rain hit that, I said, is my dream too big? Am I asking too much to put this in the schools globally? It was a big dream. But what I didn't realize is that it was a difficult dream. That for 13 years, I never thought I'd survive. I thought that what I was doing was dropping one little drop in the bucket after another drop in the bucket. And when you have an organization that has your dream in their hands, you have to watch it. You have to nurture it. You have to stand guard over your dream and make sure that everyone that is working for your dream, for the people, the constituents, the ones that are receiving your gifts of time and love and knowledge, are they being correct? Some of them aren't. We can't turn our eyes away anymore, because when there's a dream at hand and it changes people's lives, our children's lives are changed forever. And all the things that you're all doing here today is the most important thing you will ever do in your life. And I hope that you continue, but it's not easy. And every time that I get to a point where I just want to knock my head against the wall, or I pick a leadership after 2 years doesn't work, and we have to change the leadership, or we have to move forward with different people to keep your dream alive, sometimes you feel like you're starting all over again. But the intention is what's important. The dream and the intention to fulfill and never give up, that's the intention. When you're tired, and when I'm tired, I go in the classroom and I watch these kids, and they tell me what it does for them. And I cry because I think, my God, I never dreamed that I'd be going to Serbia or the UK or Canada or Hong Kong and watch MindUP being taught in Cantonese. I cry all the time for joy. So it brings me back to my mission. And those of us who are walking on hot coals, who are doing this, and it's so hard, I'm just saying, step back a minute and look at what you're doing and have gratitude for all that you've been able to give and make a real dent in someone's life for the positive. I can't think of anything that we can possibly do or that we could be tired of and tired about that isn't more worth it than that. I've been tired making movies. I certainly have fought the fight to say this is about a woman. We have to make sure these notes are put in that movie. I was getting paid for that, and it was hard. But I came home with a paycheck, and I put it in the bank, and I was able to live well. But when you have a dream like I do, you don't take money. You take the joy of changing as many people's lives as you can. So that in itself is a great gift. And I have taken that for the last 13 years in my stride and in my pride, although pride is not something that I wear, but I'm very proud, not just for that, but for my parents, who said to me when I was very little, Goldie, I want you to give 10 cents of every dollar for charity when you grow up. I was born that way. I was raised that way. I was nurtured that way. And that 10 cents of every dollar that I'm giving away is a part of my heart and a part of my soul. And that has no price on it. But the only thing that I would say is that we cannot give up. The Global Good Foundation is such a beautiful, beautiful platform to be able to build more entrepreneurs, more people who have the heart and the fortitude and the guts. And like my trainer says, don't be a give-upovich. And I'm not. And I don't think any of you are. Because the joy we get from it is indefinable, indescribable. So as I stand here and accept this beautiful award, I have to say I'm standing here as a mother, first as a child, then as a mother, and then as a grandmother. I'm just like you. I care. I love humanity. I want it to grow and flourish. I want to get all the anger and all the reactivity, put it into kind of neutralize it. So people are able to manage their own emotions. They're not name-calling. They're listening. And they're skillful on how they speak and how they negotiate, how they problem solve, and how resolved they are with their opinions, but with their strength. And my program, just so you know, is called MindUP. And it's a program that has 4 prongs. One is learn about your brain. If our children don't know how their brains work, that's not fair. They need to know about the muscle that we ask them to use every day in the classroom. They know how to use their muscles. They know what it means for a quad. They know what it means to use your arms and your shoulders. But the muscle on top of your, just resting right here, is just a mystery to them. When they understand about their brain, they then have an ability to mitigate a lot of the negative emotions because they understand how to stop. They understand now how to pause. They know what happens to the brain when you quiet the mind. They know that the prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking brain, our wise old owl, gets to make decisions, gets to mitigate stress and fear, gets to think clearly, and hits back to that hippocampus that is the memory, and that gets put away in our brain. And actually, that's how we hold our learning. Our children know that now at MindUP. They also understand the difference between negative and positive, optimism and pessimism. They learn, how do I turn a rainy day into a good thing? Not that we want to be cockeyed optimists, but we can't walk around like Eeyore. Oh, it's raining outside. It's not worth it. Our life is shorter than we can imagine. Our days are more important than ever. And all I can say is, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak like this, which I never have. So it's really given me an opportunity to speak right from my heart. I have nothing written, but I really do admire all of you, and I feel very honored to be standing in front of this illustrious group. Thank you.